Buenos dias. Welcome back to the Cafe Economies podcast. And today's guest is me.
So, it's a bit weird, isn't it?
You can just say, yes.
Yeah.
It is weird on that side.
Swap roles. So, if everyone just watching, I'm James. I'm stepping in for one podcast and one podcast only as the interviewee, because the interviewer, and vice versa. So, like, obviously, we spoke about, the podcast and things, and I said to you, you've interviewing loads of people and asking loads of like deep and hard questions of, people like me and other people. So I thought maybe the people who are watching this should know about you.
Mate, I'm on my own podcast and my heart is like fucking going. I'm getting so
I thought
anxious.
this might get there, to be fair.
Literally.
So you've written some lovely notes for me, but I guess like you do with everyone, introduction, like who you are, what you're about, where you come from, and that kind of thing.
So I suppose I say personal trainer. I'd like to say coach. I know a lot of people use that word coach. I do see myself as a coach, but I just think that word is not very well known. So I suppose personal trainer. Been doing this for what seems like forever. If you don't know already, I'm from Tenerife. I like bang on about it.
It's not like you mentioned it.
It's my personality trait.
Yeah.
So from Tenerife, England, and making this podcast, doing a lot of content, dressing up as a woman, just trying to
just a standard Wednesday for everyone.
Standard, it's just my new thing, 2023. I just thought I'd change myself up a little bit. But just looking to improve people's lives through fitness, because I know it had a massive impact on me. I feel like that's my identity now. Like personal trainer is just my identity. There's more to it than that, but I feel like because it's so much the forefront of everything that I do, I suppose that is.
They say it's like another feather in your cap. Do you know what I mean? Like it's something that adds to the persona that is Luis, and the
exactly.
life and things. So I guess we're sat on the podcast. So why podcasting? Why specifically this kind of setup? And
so a lot of the stuff that I've been interested in over the years has been a lot of personal development and self-development, maybe a bit too much at some stages, and it's fed into the way that I train people. So I talk about fitness quite a lot, literally like fucking all the time, and I just wanted an avenue where I could speak about other people's stories, obviously have my own, giving my own 2 cents of people's experiences, but just opening up that door to personal development, to trying to better yourself, because I don't think it's something that a lot of people even just go into, or even I suppose it's maybe I think about it way too much, and I'm thinking of the people at the other end of the spectrum, but I just think it's interesting to get some insights of mainly coaches at the moment, hopefully broadening the spectrum on that, and just seeing what experiences other people can resonate from and how they can get better from, and what lessons you can get from people that might not be too different to what you are.
Yeah, I suppose I think it's good, because I think anyone who starts, working out and things, you don't have any common ground when you go, oh, well, I can bench press this, or I can squat this, or, how many reps you're doing of whatever. But, the life lessons, the things that happen to you along the way, they're things that you can resonate with anyone with. Do you know what I mean? Losing jobs, or, family members, or whatever those things are, health issues.
Yeah.
So maybe I think this is a really good avenue for that kind of thing.
I think it's a bigger rendition of what I do anyway with coaching, because a lot of this stuff that I talk about is the stuff that I talk about with my clients. So on a one-to-one basis, but then I know there's a lot of people that follow me that don't obviously get that. I don't coach them or whatever, and maybe not even get to that stage. So it'd just be nice to have an avenue to broaden your mind, I suppose.
I suppose it's also to get out a little bit of you. Do you know what I mean? They probably know what you're trying to achieve with them, fitness related, but they don't know the background of you and the life you've led up to that point. So what is that let's start like you said in all your podcasts, sound like Stephen Bartlett, but let's take it way back and where it started, who you are, cultures, that kind of thing. It's a very long, deep question.
It's not a deep question. It's so, I feel like, because obviously I'm front row and center of my own life. I've had this question quite a lot of just talking. I feel like it's journeying on, but I suppose if you've never met me, so half English, half Spanish. The first part of my life was living in Tenerife. So I was actually born here, and then we went back when I was 10 days old. So from 10 days old, really young. I don't think you could do that anymore.
Crazy.
10 days old till about 9. Came back here, and then I stayed here from 9. So I did secondary school, primary school, secondary school here. Did a bit of college, and then since then I've just been back and forth in Tenerife. I've got a superpower of running away, as you well know. I've actually done quite a lot of things before becoming a personal trainer. So I used to do roofing, being a labourer, build swimming pools, a lot of bar work. a lot of, I suppose, client facing stuff, like maybe in the bar sort of sense, but then I guess the labouring, roofing, swimming pool kind of things was the physical aspect. So it's kind of almost a rendition of what I do at the moment. But yeah, no, so I moved back to Tenerife when I was 19 through just a series of things that had happened, which I suppose we'll touch upon. Stayed there for a couple of years. I went back to Tenerife with the idea of that was it, that's me done. I just qualified as a personal trainer. I'm going to go back and do that.
As in, like, you were going to become a personal trainer in Tenerife?
No, I became a personal trainer here. Moved back to Tenerife thinking I'm going to go there, personal train. That's me done. Live the life, and it didn't really work out that way. It's just the things that happened. I just got into like bar work, and it just didn't really take off for me. And then I came back when I was 21, and ever since then tried to go on at this as I've been going. Unfortunately, COVID happened. So I think I'd been back a year. I'd only been personal training 3 months. Actually, no, 6 months. And then COVID hit. So I was kind of forced into online training and changing things up.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, since then, just been banging on the same drum, trying to push the message, and obviously Live Better has been born since then.
So like taking it to the first bit, like how did that, you know, the blending of, you know, being in England, being in Tenerife, like, do you appreciate that? And like, you've already seen life from two different sides and different cultures, different ways of living.
It's completely different worlds. It's completely different. And I feel like it's probably why I'm torn sometimes as to where I want to be and where I'm always jumping ship. And sometimes I'm here and I love it here, and then sometimes I'm there and I love it there. It's just completely different. It's two different ways of living. One's a lot slower. One's a lot, I want to say poorer. I suppose I suppose there's less people there. It's more so to do with tourism. So if you're in that sort of sector, it's good for that. But for here, it's just a different way of living, I suppose.
Yeah.
Not that I don't like it. I suppose the weather is kind of the thing that I hate. I love it, prefer it there. So there's aspects of there that I love and aspects of here that I love, and I suppose that's where I'm always torn as to where I want to stay.
Yeah, for sure. And like, you know, I think you've found a way of balancing them well, and you know, I suppose it gives you different perspective, ability to talk to different people, you know, from different backgrounds, you know, which I think is great. So obviously you spoke about, you know, the personal training sort of coming in, and, you know, you're doing the labouring, you were doing, you know, client facing jobs, but why personal training? Why did you go down that specific route? You know,
it's such a funny story, how I got into it. So I don't think I ever wanted to be a personal trainer for ages. It was not something that I was like, oh my God, yes, this is what I want to do. Even though it feels like I have been like that, like I've been wanting to do it for so long, it feels naturally like I've just been in that area of, I was always going to be a personal trainer. There was a part of my life where that literally was like the definition of me or whatever. But before that, I started training just like a hobby with a friend. We used to just go. Didn't ever really think of it, anything of it. Sorry. I guess I gained a lot of confidence from that, from being like a skinny fat kid to someone with a little bit of muscle. And there was like the influences back then of Christian Guzman and just YouTubers. So I just enjoyed training, but I was what you would maybe call smart. I don't like calling that myself, but I guess I was in a sense. I had something up there, I guess. I was interested in those sort of things, and I always felt like I had to do more because no one in my family went to university or anything. So I egotistically was like, I'm going to be the first person. Okay. More so to say that I was the first person, not the fact that I wanted to go. And I kind of rode that way for ages. I felt like I had to do it. I
suppose like lots of people think that, you know, you want to take what your parents gave you and, like, you know, take it to a different level, or, you know,
exactly
try and provide a life for yourself and maybe them that, you know, you weren't accustomed to when you were a kid.
I was a little bit lost. Like, I just kept jumping from different professions. I suppose now I jump from different locations. But so I started off wanting to be like a carpenter. And I was just like, well, most of my family are carpenters. Like, I'll just be a carpenter. And then one of my friends, I still remember, he was like, no, you're too clever just to be a carpenter. No disrespect to carpenters, but he was like, you're too clever for that. I was like, okay.
And splinters really hurt. Yeah.
Exactly, I can do. Okay, I'll be an architect. Just, that was the next level up. Realised I didn't want to do that, so that went down the window. Down the drain. Then I wanted to be a stockbroker because I watched The Wolf of Wall Street. Did all the, I swear to God, I'm not even joking.
You wanted to be a stockbroker
because of The Wolf of Wall Street.
Because of the Quaaludes and the lifestyle.
Yeah, literally, that's what I wanted. Like, I saw that, and I shit, you know, it's hilarious. And I look back on it. I watched the film. I think I watched it about 3 times in 2 or 3 days, and then I did the research of what I had to do to become a stockbroker. I was like, right, okay, I need to do this course, I need to do that. That obviously died very quickly because it was a fucking film. And then I always liked fitness. I was quite good in like, not fitness, sorry, I like science. I was really like good at that and maths. So again, after the stockbroker dream died, I was like, what can I do that kind of involves this? I know biochemical engineering. That was the next thing. Because I thought, oh, I'm smart, so I've got to use this. I've got to use this. Well, I say I was smart, but I've got to use this. And that was that. Realised I didn't want to do that. Then I was like, okay, well, I like fitness. Maybe I should go and do sports science because that's, again, using the smartness side of things. And then I think I just got into my first year of college and I took chemistry, maths and biology and hated my fucking life.
It's a heavy rotation.
Heavy rotation. Like, it was just, the jump was ridiculous. And then I just sort of did, like, I had the friend that I got into the gym with, he wanted to be a personal trainer for ages, but again, he was quite smart. He never did it. But I was just like, oh, do you know what, I'll just be a personal trainer. And then I had that in my mind. I was like, oh, I'm just going to be a personal trainer. And then when I was going to the uni, like, interviews, people were just telling me, like, don't waste your money. Like, just go and get a course. If that's what you really want to do, you don't really want to go for anything else. Like, don't go and do a sports science. You might as well just go get the course and get sorted. So yeah, I just got into it through that. Literally got qualified, and then that was it. But even then, I wasn't really that. I did like love it. I love training, but I didn't. I was in it for the shiny price tag of £40 an hour. I was like, yeah, sweet, it's easy. I was like, I'll go get this. Yeah, look at that, I'll be rolling. I was like 17. I'm gonna be fucking roll. No, sorry, I was 18. Be rolling in it, and at the time, I was doing. I was building swimming pools, but I got to a stage with that where that's dream sort of died. So before I qualified, I weren't really going to do it. I got so used to just being a labourer, getting paid weekly, living a cushy life, doing drugs, just smoking, just being a bit of a delinquent. But it was easy. Like I was just cushy, and then in the end, I was just not really doing it. And then there was a guy that I used to work with called Kev, and I used to train after work because I enjoyed it, and I used to always say, "Oh, I'm going to go do this personal training." But in the end, he sort of like bullied me, not in a sense of just to be a cunt. It was almost like he was saying, "Oh, you're never going to do this. Like, you're not going to." It was almost like pushing me on because he wanted me to go get the qualification. And in the end, I was getting so fucked off. I was like, "Nah, fuck you. Like, I'll prove you wrong," kind of thing. So I went and got the qualification, and then went to Tenerife, and that sort of just died out. Tried to like do a couple things. I remember working in a studio. That was my first ever job as a personal trainer as such. I remember he wanted me to push Herbalife because he was giving me all the spiel about Herbalife and stuff. I used to run a few group classes, but I was so unconfident and shitting myself because I'd speak like Spanish and I never felt that my Spanish was that good. So it was like motivating a bunch of people in Spanish, trying to do that. So that was like my first taste of personal training. Yeah. But yeah, that's how I got into it.
And then obviously, like, I suppose after that you came back to the UK and started to...
So I had so that was my first taste of doing it. Then I stayed in Tenerife, just working behind a bar, not really doing much. Had a couple of like private clients that I enjoyed doing. And then a year went past and I was just like, I'm just fucking sick of this like lifestyle. Just I want to do this personal training thing. I really want to go for it. Came back in 2019, worked in Pure Gym like a fucking dog. I used to sit in that gym for ages. Just sit there. I used to go in at like 8 a.m. and leave at like 9. Just sit there. I wouldn't talk to anyone. I would hope that the people would talk to me. Because that was how, like, I just didn't really have a clue.
So in your head, you thought, like, you know...
Yeah, I just thought it was easy.
And
like, that's what I said. I was swindled by the shiny price tag of, like, £40 an hour. So I was like, this is going to be cool. Like, people are going to need me. Like, people need personal trainers. I didn't really understand all the stuff that goes into it. You
don't make £40 an hour watching Netflix.
Doing nothing, like just sitting there at a table hoping that someone come talk to you. It even got to the point, I remember at Pure Gym, when the manager asked me to leave. Not leave the job. He was like, I need you to go home. Because I was just like, my thing, I was like, quite socially awkward, and that's where my sort of like anxiety. Those years prior, I developed like really bad anxiety, so I couldn't really talk to people, which is hilarious. Now I'm trying to think about it, being a personal trainer.
Actually, mate, I watched you on Instagram on the toilet the other day with a
yeah, I've come a long way.
Yeah, let's not talk about being shy anymore.
So my thing was to cover people's classes. I was like, well, people like. That's a way of me talking to people, because I used to think, I don't want to annoy anyone, but if I was in a class, well, you had to talk to me, so I would sit there and cover everyone's classes, and he was like, I need you to like go home, like have a bit of a life sort of thing, and he goes, I didn't in the end, but yeah, no, so I did that, and then I started working at Jets, which is where I met you, and just sort of build on from there.
I suppose like, you know, I suppose it's built and built and built, and you know, now you're in a great place and things like that. So like,
it's a fucking long process, tell you that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I suppose, but then, you know, that being in there for hours, and you know, that foundation you built, that's given you the ability to get to the, tier 2, tier 3, and however far you want to take it in the future.
Yeah.
So obviously, like I suppose you get a lot of like job satisfaction, because I guess like you get people come in and they don't feel right, or they don't feel confident. I suppose you're able to give. Is that one of the most satisfying things about that, or is there other things that you really enjoy?
So I guess obviously it kind of links in, like, so I came into this industry of just like, the £40 price tag, but I think I stayed because I realised I think an element of it was like I'd put so much into being this personal trainer, and that's what I forged the identity to the people that like knew me, and I was like, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. I think it got to a stage where I was like, oh, it's like the sunk cost fallacy of like, oh, I put so much into it that I don't want to let it go. But eventually it got to the stage where I was realising how much of an impact being a personal trainer has. It's not just like counting reps and just, oh yeah, come and do this exercise and stuff like that. I think the biggest job satisfaction I get is seeing people go from really like timid and really shy and unconfident and not believing in themselves to then doing things that you like they wouldn't even dream of before, just because of fitness. Like, I suppose I try and in some way put the story of my life through to them, of like, I was really like unconfident and shy. I don't really have a lot of belief in myself, and doing this sort of thing, being confident in that area of just lifting weights or whatever, has allowed me to maybe take risks in other aspects. So I suppose just seeing the transformation of people not thinking that they're not anything, but not that anything special, and actually thinking, no, like, I can do this sort of stuff. Even just taking the risk, if it doesn't work, but just taking the risk.
I suppose, like, you mentioned it earlier, but like, it does carry over from, just being in the gym to, general life, and going for promotion or something, having a bit of belief in yourself that you can get those things. And I think you see anyone that, goes to the gym, that they're working on themselves in some way, which I think is, great for anyone.
Yeah. It's just the opportunities people create for themselves. Like, it's fucking unbelievable. And it's amazing. The privilege I have to impact people in that way of just like, I mean, I do care how much people like lift in the gym. Like, that's cool. But that is like probably bottom tier of all the stuff. Like, it's seeing people go for job promotions, or some of the women telling me like, oh, well, I've had all these blokes that are kind of there, but now it's time to fuck off. Whereas before I wouldn't have told them. Or some guys I've had in the past who now try and go for dates and have got girlfriends. And that's not saying I'm the reason for it, but like, even if I could just be the first domino.
Yeah, just like the ignition to get
just the ignition, just a sort of spark of like, okay, let's try and do that. And then they do that, and then they do that, and you just don't know where that's going to go. So
like you said, like, when you got into the industry, it was about, the big shiny £40 price tag. But now you're like heavy into the mindset stuff and, trying to better people. Like, what cultivated that? Like, at what point did you think this is more than just, was there like a specific thing or a specific person that you went, hang on a minute,
If I was in a therapy session, I'd probably say that I do the thing that I probably needed the most. I try and help the part that needed most help from me, and that sounds really fucking deep. So yeah, I struggle quite a lot, just very socially awkward, anxiety. A lot of it, I've just been my own worst enemy. But my sort of personal development journey as such started in 2021. Like, when I first started reading and going to therapy and stuff. And I've wanted to do this for years. Like, this podcast, I've wanted to do it for so long, but I've never felt like I've had the right maybe to speak about it. Because I've always felt, even though like at the time of being 21, of like a lot of things did happen to get me to that stage. I felt like I did have things to talk about, but I was like, you're 21, maybe you don't sort of know. So I've kind of just sort of maybe put it into like speaking to clients, but on the scale that I'm talking about it now, in terms of like mindset and personal development, has only come just recently. So really, it's come from all the tools that I have used to get to where I am now. I just want to share it with other people, and see where that takes them, because it did massively like help me. I suppose I forgot the question. I don't know if I went.
Just like you said, like what cultivated it, what made it click, and like, like we started with job satisfaction, and I suppose that is a massive part of it, isn't it? Seeing the gaps that, these people have in their lives, that you go, do you know what, actually, like, I suffered from that, or, that's how I was feeling,
I think, it's probably like I said, the reflection of me of like, I know how shit I felt, and how sometimes like alone I felt, and I suppose I don't know, like, I don't know if it's misunderstood, or I just felt like I didn't fit in some stages. Like, I don't know, like, just all these random things. So I started looking in other areas. I started maybe doing the stuff that people don't do, like the journaling, talking, like the talking therapy. What the therapy you get, reading more books, finding out other ways of thinking, dealing with these other issues. And I suppose I've seen elements of that, maybe not to extremes, in the clients that I've had, in the conversations that I'm having, and just being able to, I suppose, nip that in the bud as soon as possible and just give someone that piece of information, whether it's that little bit of a quote, whether it's that push or that little motivational talk that you give them, whether it's that book or telling them to go, I don't really tell many people to go to therapy, but just things like that, being, I suppose, the guide or the helper to then get them past it and then get them to the next level.
Like you've educated yourself in a part that you didn't know anything about. And now it's like you can see that other people need that education, and maybe if you can help them or give it to them, maybe not give it to them, because I think, you know, anything you overcome, you have to work at. You're just giving them the tools to go, have you thought about this? Or have you tried this? Or
well, that's it. Like, I think a lot of my problem was, like, I look back and I hate fucking, it's like I'm feeling sorry for myself. But like, I just think, where was I going with this? Oh, no, I've lost it. I've fucking lost it. Where was I going with that? No, that's gone.
It's like, well, I think like over the years, you know, like you said, it's gone from, you know, you finding out about things and then, you know, helping other people. So I suppose there's been some great moments, probably been some bad moments in those. Like, you know, let's delve into those. Like, I suppose like for every success, there's probably, you know, a couple of downfalls, a couple of trips along the way. Have you got any that, like, you know, really stick in your mind over the course of your PT and career so far, you know, as young as it is?
How much fucking time have we got, mate? I just, do you know what? I feel like it kind of almost feels like I've just gone from fuck up to fuck up. Whereas I used to see that as like a negative sense. I feel like everyone, if you just focus on the negatives, you're just going to see the negatives. A lot of mistakes I've just made are just like ego, I suppose. Like, business wise, I got way too big for my boots earlier on.
You're making £40 an hour, mate.
I was making £40 an hour, yeah. Like, I suppose it's like expectations going into something, thinking, oh yeah, this is going to be easy, and not realizing the work that I was going to do. Mistakes, like career wise, I suppose, like, trust it. They're mistakes that I don't regret. Like, I needed to learn the lessons, and I suppose sometimes they're expensive lessons. But like buying into like courses that I maybe didn't need to do, being stupid with my money.
Pushing Herbalife.
I never did. He just kept giving me the products, and I was like, yeah, no, that's not for me. But like going into, obviously, you know, 2021, when I thought I was the fucking man and got the flat, and just like, yeah, did two good mums, and I was like, yeah, sweet, like, I'm gonna go and do this. Like, that's probably. Sorry,
I suppose you think about like how much you learned from that situation.
That's what I mean. I wouldn't change it. Like, all these things, I just don't think I would. As much as, yes, okay, it probably would have cost me a lot of fucking headaches, a lot of down moments, and a lot of headspace. But at least I know now, and I suppose I can relay those lessons to other people. But I always believe that you need to kind of live certain lessons, no matter how much someone tells you. You need to fuck up. You need to get like punched in the face so you can learn it. Because I can sit here and tell you, like you told me, are you sure you should go get that flat? Do you think it's the right decision? I didn't listen, and obviously I got the downfall from that. But then, yeah, just sort of like, what are the mistakes, downfalls?
Well, I suppose, like, you know, it builds, doesn't it? You know, it's like compounding. You know, you get yourself out of one hole, you get yourself out of 10 holes. You know, like, you just it compounds. One, I suppose that's the same thing at the gym. Do you know what I mean? You keep turning up, you keep clocking in, you keep dialing in, do your workouts. It compounds and compounds and compounds. I suppose it's the same with mindset, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? You realise that you do the little things every day, they'll build and build and build. So yeah, obviously you've written me some notes here and there's some questions on this, so I'm gonna fire in a few of them every once in a while. Cool. So someone said, what was the thing you did wrong and what did you learn the most from it? I suppose we've touched on it, but let's talk about like the actual nitty gritty of it.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's number one. Like, I don't think there's one thing that I've done. Like, there's not like a standout thing that I would say that I did wrong. Sorry, like one thing that stands above all else. I just think there's a lot of little mistakes that I didn't. A lot of that comes from like ego and not understanding myself. So like the flat thing, not listening to friends. I just think. What was the question again? So the thing I did wrong and what's the greatest lesson from it?
The thing you did wrong and what did you learn the most from?
I suppose the flat thing taught me about like money, like not being stupid with money, learning that sort of sense, because that's something that I've been massive. Like, ask Bobby, he'll tell you it's like fucking, I'm just an idiot with money. Or have been an idiot with money up in like for 24 years. And then just business decisions, like going into gyms that probably weren't the best situation for me, making decisions of like, oh, well, this course is going to solve things. I think the biggest thing is not taking time to understand myself. And that's really fucking deep. I suppose if I'd understood that a bit more, what makes me tick and where I sort of fall short in certain areas, I could have maybe missed out on certain things happening. Again, I don't regret them happening, but the greatest lesson is just, like learn more about you and find out what makes you tick and where you're maybe not that good at, where you need to focus on a little bit.
Yeah. I suppose like, you wouldn't find those things out and you wouldn't know those things without those things.
Exactly.
So, like, as like we always say to each other, like, sometimes life has to punch you in the face and it sucks and like it hurts, but the lessons you take from it and you go, and then you're able to see that the next time and go, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that, or maybe I should take a little bit more time. Yeah. So like, I suppose like, understanding you being comfortable with being uncomfortable, like I suppose like you said, tackling some anxiety issues, some stress issues, like
I suppose, well, we're going to touch on that.
we don't have to, but
no, we can. But I feel like it's necessary. Like I suppose all of that. Now I look back on the anxiety and, as I said, all the things the problems that maybe occurred, came from me because I was a massive weed smoker for quite a long time, up until like 2 years ago. So when I was still PTing, as again, like I wanted to do all these sort of things, but I kind of almost felt like a fraud. Not a fraud, but I was like, what right do you have? You're sitting there smoking weed every single day. Like 2021, it was every single day. Still trying to push this like whole agenda of mindset and personal development and stuff. So yeah, like it's just being a bit of a delinquent for God knows how long, and I guess that's where a lot of my anxiety and a lot of all the social interactions kind of fizzled out, because I would just lock myself away and just fucking smoke weed all the time. And that was the way that I would deal with problems. So I think now where that's changed, it's almost like, why is this happening? I say being sober, so I fucking sound like a recovering drug addict. But sort of sitting there and just like going through the feelings, going through the emotions. I've mentioned it before in the podcast of like sitting with that problem.
I suppose it's like, finding out the issues and then finding the healthy way to deal with them. Like, you could get through it by, smoking a big zoo or whatever and chilling out, but that's not the healthy way, because you know that, 10 minutes after that, you're going to be pranging out about the thing that got you to smoke it in the first place. Whereas like, you've probably worked out some tools that are going to help you. And I suppose like, you're now trying to preach those tools to other people and say like, it doesn't have to be drugs that get you. I think you might overeat, you might not eat, you might not drink any water, you might only drink beer. I mean, whatever those things are, I suppose it's you now trying to show people that there's healthy ways to deal with it.
Yeah, I suppose that's kind of like the story of going back to what cultivate that mindset is almost like I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt sort of thing. Like I'm not sitting on my high horse like trying to spout this mindset and personal development bullshit at you because I'm just blowing, like regurgitating books. It's almost like, no, I've sat there and I've tried to solve these problems by not talking to anyone. I've tried to solve these problems by just smoking my life away. I've just distractions and do all these, and they just don't work. So I guess I've just tried to get the lessons from that area of my life, and more recently is like actually sitting there and just dealing with the feeling and finding healthier ways of changing that through your habits, through little lifestyle changes, and how much of an impact that can have, and almost having like a sense of purpose. Because I think that's the one thing that kind of dragged me along all of this. This whole PT story feels like I've been going on for ages, and sometimes feel like I'm not where I could be or should be, but it's just the way it is. I keep fucking losing my track.
I think we all have those things that, when we compare ourselves, like whether it's Instagram, whether it's to your friends, whether it's, do you know what I mean? Like, I think you forget that everyone's on their own path at their own rate. And, like you said, building those foundations, from Tenerife, from home, from working behind a bar, for, working in gyms that you go, Jesus Christ, like, why am I here? They're not preaching the same message as I am. They're all building blocks, do you know what I mean? And they'll get you to where you want to be in the end. It's just, your way of working it.
Yeah, I mean, it's pushed me to look into different areas, like maybe the smoking weed got me to a certain case, with like certain sense of my anxiety and stuff like that has to go to therapy. And I think the therapy was the best thing, because then I answered hard questions about myself and started looking more inwardly as to what makes me tick. And then you just take little bits from that, and that's what passes on now into obviously my business.
I suppose like you said, beliefs and values, do you know what I mean? Like finding those things that, that resonate with you, and working out, like you said, what makes you tick, and they're set that you're going to react a certain way because of X, Y, and Z. But maybe if I look at it, I always think if you look at something from a slightly different angle, you have a different response.
Yeah.
So if you're able to take yourself out of that situation and then move around and see something differently, then that's great. And I suppose that's a massive tool that you've
Yeah, it's just all
had.
perspective. I think that's what's been coming over the last God knows how many years, is looking at things in different ways and probably being not being so harsh on yourself, because that is one thing about, like, I'm great at giving advice, but taking the same advice, it just goes over my head. But I'm great at like spurting out shit to people, which does actually help them. Sometimes I need to take my own advice. But yeah, it's just, I think, not being so like critical of yourself. I think a lot of people like that, but I felt like I was massively like that. I've always shunned myself as like this weirdo, like I didn't really like fit in and didn't really understand myself. And now, whereas I've always thought that was the problem, like that was the one thing that I was trying to solve about myself. And I think that's where all this pushback happened and why I kept making all these mistakes. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Why don't I want to do what they're doing? Like when I moved to Tenerife, like I wasn't really interested in going out, never really went clubbing, and would kick myself for that. I was like, why don't I like doing those things? And even coming back, like I read books like before anyone else did. It was like, it's just little things, like I just didn't maybe fit in certain areas, and I always thought that was a problem and that was a bad thing. Whereas now I'm like, that's actually like a superpower. Not a superpower, but like that is my thing. Like,
like it's your way of being you. You know what I mean? You've learned who you are. You've learned your values. You've learned things. A casual beer on a Sunday afternoon is lovely, but after one, you're probably like, I want to get home. I've got things to do, spend time with the family, whatever that is for you.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's no shame in those things. It's just
no, but that's come over time. That's what I'm saying. Like for years, I was trying to solve that problem of like, oh no, what's wrong with me? Like, why don't I do this? Why do I want to sit here and just work all the time? Why don't I want to drink on a Friday and a Saturday night? Why don't I want to go clubbing? Whereas now,
there's so many times you force yourself out and you've been stood in a club and everyone's binned around you and you're like, why am I here? Like what?
Like I don't enjoy it. Like, and I've always pushed myself to like, maybe I'll get there. Maybe I'll do that. And then whereas now I'm in a state of like, fuck it. Just be yourself. Like, do what you want to do and like find out what makes you tick and what you enjoy and fucking own it.
Yeah, for sure.
You would just enjoy your life a lot more.
Yeah, man. And like you said, just making things happen for you. You know what I mean? Moving the way you want to move. I'm not the best podcaster.
No, it's okay.
I keep looking at this notes.
It's all right. I think
you've written a word that I don't know how to say.
Right, I've got it here.
And I'm not going to try and butcher it.
It's okay.
So I thought,
I'll
hand it back over to
the word is, let me get the notes up of the podcast. That probably would help. Don't know why I'm being really formal in my own podcast. I can just do whatever the fuck I want, don't I?
Whatever you want, man. Actually, it's my podcast now. So I'm the captain now.
So the word is, we'll circle back to that. I'll ask the question of like finding more about you, spending time alone, asking difficult questions. So like I was saying, the journey of all of this, and linking back, I suppose this is where I was going earlier, where I've lost my words, of what cultivated the mindset of just like spending more time on your own and finding out, like I said, what makes you tick, what do you enjoy, what are your values, and like trying to live a life like that no matter what, and not, because I think a lot of people conform to social like pressures and they're doing this. At the moment, everyone's buying houses and having fucking babies on my stories. I'm like, fuck that. Like, it's just not me. Whereas before, the old me would be like, why? Like, what is wrong with me? Like, why don't I like that sort of stuff? Whereas now, because I spent all this time like reflecting, journaling, seeing what makes me tick, I'm cool with it because it's just like what I want to do. So that's like the lesson from that is like spending more time on your own, not being distracted all the time. Yeah. When something goes wrong, don't jump to the fucking next, like I used to, just smoke weed and forget about it.
But like, what's a practical way of doing that? Like, how do you combat, and how are you scheduling time? Are you like
sit there on your own? Like, I mean, I journal. So my thing is journaling is just like writing down what it is that I'm feeling and how I am. My biggest one recently has been speaking to other people. Okay. Did not speak to anyone I did in the therapy sort of sense, but like my friends, I'd always give them like a watered down version of how I was feeling. Up until this year, I've like now led like thick of like how it is, what I'm feeling, stuff like that. So actually speaking to people and not feeling like you're a burden, because I think a lot of times that's why people don't say anything. It's like, oh well, they got stuff going on.
The people around you, like I was talking to someone who is around you, like I think it's refreshing. Do you know what I mean? Because I knew that like you say things, and I'm like, you're not giving me the whole story. Yeah. Like you're leaving parts out because either you don't want to address them or you don't want me to know personally, or like whether it's me or other friends or family or whatever. I think I'll speak for all of us and say like it's nice for you to just say it how it is because we appreciate it, and I think vice versa.
Literally,
like when I talk to you, I don't sugarcoat it. I just say like, this is how I feel. Just even if you don't have to say anything, just go. Yeah. All right, cool.
But that's it. Like I think I just learned that if there are problems, you need to address them, write them down, see what they are, spend some time alone. Don't use distractions. I think that's the biggest thing that people jump to, is just distracting themselves, whatever that is, drugs, drinking, going out, TikTok, whatever, like dating apps. Like there's always something that just takes your attention away from the fact that you have to just sit there and deal with it. But I think the best thing you can do is obviously recognize that, realize it's shit, maybe talk to a friend, and then do the things that make you fucking like feel happy. Like this is where I push the gym side of things. I feel like all of this kind of intertwines with each other. This is where the whole live better thing came from, because I was always trying to find a way of like, okay, I like fitness, I like PT, and that is cool. I like that part, but there's a bit more to it than that. Like people are a bit more complex than that. There's other things that are going on. So it's taking that world of like the self development and mindset, personal training, coming into each other. Like, so the times where you are feeling shit or when you're feeling good, you can use the gym to make you feel better. Like get those endorphins, improve yourself, and then that transpires into other areas.
Yeah, and I suppose like at the start you said like, you know, I'm a PT, I want, you know, coach. You know, don't like that term, but I suppose like there's so many terms for what you do. Do you know what I mean? One minute you could be coach, and the next minute you're just a friend. The next minute you're, you know, someone to give a bit of advice. The next minute you're, you know, you're there shouting at them like Mr. T style, telling them to do push-ups. Do you know what I mean? So like, I think the name for what you do is so open, because you can be one of 50 things on any given time, which would help your client or, you know, the people that you probably now have a very big vested interest in be better, live better, exactly. Like you said.
It's like, it's such a broad term. It's not a case of like, oh, just come and get fit. Like, let's just get shredded and all that sort of stuff. It's like, no.
We've all been there and gone to a gym session and been like, I can't be bothered because my mind's somewhere else. And maybe they just want to, you know, they just need to walk on a treadmill with you and talk out their life issues. And you maybe don't even have to say anything. You just have to go, oh, okay. And then the next session they'll come in and smash it, I guess. You know, that give and take of things. And then there's also times where you have to, I'm sure you have to call bullshit on some things and go, no, you need to just shut up and do your reps. You know what I mean? So it's like you know, that's kudos to you on knowing when the right time is to push and when the right time to lay off.
Exactly. And I feel like as well, the gym side of things would alleviate a lot of problems. It's not a case of like they're going to solve them, but it would make them feel a bit better. Like training, going for a walk, just generally being healthy, like in that sort of sense, what you put in your body in terms of food, whether you stop drinking less, it's just going to allow you to feel better, and it's going to make you more equipped to deal with the problems so they don't last that long. That's where I was going wrong for so many years. Was like, had these problems and I was just trying to deal with them in a bad way, and I was feeling shit, and then I wondered why it just kept repeating, or I weren't solving it, or I weren't really at 50%. It was just like, well, there's shit in my body. I was smoking weed all the time, and not only smoking weed, I get the munchies real bad. So I just eat. And then when I wake up the next day, I'm really sluggish. I've had all this sugar and shit. Like when I eat, I fucking eat as well. It's not this ain't like this ain't a fucking like a dairy milk chocolate bar. This is like a whole packet of biscuits, no problems. And it was just constantly going through the cycle of I just feel shit, like, and all these little things that are probably derailing me massively, just because of the habits and the way that I was living my life.
Yeah, I suppose that transcends into like the way you were talking to clients as well, in the sense of like they didn't know that you weren't living the life that you were preaching.
No one knew.
But you knew, and then that probably came across in the way you were talking. You know, probably less confident, like you said, bit anxious, because you were like, what if they just call my bullshit?
Yeah.
Because you knew deep down that you weren't doing those things. And, you know, you're not telling people to go and like read a book a day, but maybe you're saying, you know, maybe read a page. You know, you don't have to drink 50 litres of water today, but let's drink, you know, just try and drink 500 ml more than you did yesterday, because yesterday you didn't drink any. You know what I mean? So it's like
I think the book thing, the biggest thing that I got from that was, like I said, a lot of the time was going through a stage of misunderstanding myself and I suppose the world, and just having one view on a situation. Like, this has happened, this is bad, this is the only way that I can look at it. Whereas books opened up a whole new world of perspective of like, okay, the same things can happen to 3 different people and 3 different outcomes can come from that. I can see it as very pessimistic and negative, and why me? Oh God, like, why is this like, my life's so shit? And then the next person can see it as an opportunity, or just be at peace with it. And that's where reading came in so much for me, was just like, okay, maybe I don't need to see it like that. Maybe there are other ways. And that's, again, another part of the live better thing of what I'm trying to spout to other people, which is sometimes I feel like I'm just regurgitating stuff, but I think it helps. It's just giving people a fresh perspective. And there's been times with clients that are just like coming in and I probably talk about stuff that's nothing to do with fitness. It's literally like proper deep life stuff, and they'll leave that conversation just feeling a little bit better because of the information that I've managed to get and just deliver it to someone else.
Yeah, and like I suppose, like, you know, the same present or gift, you know, wrapped slightly differently.
Yeah.
Like, you're able to go, maybe if I say it the way that I read it, they might not get it because it's not, you know, it doesn't transfer to their life or, you know, their problem. Whereas like maybe you're able to take that information in, think about it, you know, redigest it, and then give it out in a way that they're able to go, I get it now. Or like, you know, like a light bulb moment and go, I understand it. You know?
Another part that gets me so fucking like excited, I was going to say gets my dick hard, but that's not really the way I should really talk
Well,
about this.
with women,
But
let's not say that.
yeah, I can't really talk about that. Is like the knock-on effect that people have from this whole fitness thing. Like, I honestly believe that a lot of people go into this, and I have had clients that just come into this and like, okay, just make me look good, just let me like lift some weights, and that's it. Well, they don't actually realize the bigger picture of not only for themselves but for other people. It's like when you start doing stuff, you don't know who's watching. And I suppose an egotistical for me is like, if I can help this one person can maybe turn into 20 people, because fucking Sally at the office has now seen Katie doing so-and-so and thought, oh, fucking, you know what, she can do it. Like, what's stopping me from doing it? Yeah. Not in a horrible way, but just like, oh, okay, maybe I can do this. Maybe I should try that. Or look how, like, oh, she looks so, like, she's so happy now. She's bouncing along in the office and really energized, and that inspires someone else. And that domino effect could be unbelievable.
Like, you know, that's great for you business wise, but I also think, you know, like
no, not in a sense of like getting more people to come and coach for
like,
me.
Yeah, but like the feeling of like achievement and the feeling of, you know, like being able to help so many people, people having the feeling that you had.
Yeah,
you know, that must be an incredible.
It's fucking good.
Motivating.
Don't get me wrong. There are times where it's fucking when you're down and it is rough and it is shit. But when it's good, like you just feel. Yeah. You feel really.
Yeah, in
like
December when no one's in the gym and they're all eating turkey, it's pretty tough. But I imagine January when they were all like, you know, let's start this year right and get it kicking, then it's, you know, it's great for you.
And I suppose to round that little section up of, I found a word back in, just as I was creating Live Better, 3rd of June 2021, that kind of summarises as this.
You're now hosting as well. Should I just leave? I just I just call it a day. I had a chance.
Well, you didn't want to pronounce the word, so I'm going to do it for you. So yeah, it's like I think it's a Greek philosophy or whatever. It's eudaimonia, and it means human flourishing. So a contented state of being happy, healthy, and prosperous. Wow. So that's just some traits.
Say it again one more time.
Eudaimonia.
I'd have said like that, yeah.
Yeah, that's how you would have said it. But yeah, so it's just basically like trying to. So the traits here are self-discovery, perceived development in one's best potential, a sense of purpose and meaning in life, intense involvement in activities, investment of significant effort and in pursuit of excellence, and then enjoyment of activities as personally expressive.
So I suppose like looking from the outside as well, that kind of describes LB, isn't it? Whether that's Lewis Bornes or Live Better, you know, it describes both pretty well, and like what you're trying to preach and the message you have.
Just try and obviously be happy, because I suppose it's almost running away from how I used to feel and how I feel now, and it's just like everyone should try and at least get to this stage, aim to get to that stage.
Just like steady state, do you know what I mean? Like there is going to be peaks and troughs, but as long as you're able to sort of see over the top of the mountains and over the top of the downfalls, then you'll be all right. You're
just trying to be like averagely good. It's not a case of absolute excellence. Like it's just the underneath.
Because some days you might be excellent and some days you might be.
Exactly. That's the thing. Like when you go into this, it's like, oh, I want to get absolutely shredded. And I was like, well, I'm not really asked about that. I'm just asking you about being somewhat at a good state, kind of happy, as long as you can.
Yeah, man. So like, wrapping up, but like the future of LB.
God, well, just taking this as far as I can, I guess. Building this brand, the Capricorn Race, and then Live Better and almost like intertwine it. I suppose I want to maybe open up a facility at some point, but whatever it is that I do, it's almost like the impact that it has, being it on a broader scale and inspiring. Whether I inspire more people to do stuff or the people that I work with then go and inspire other people. But it's just building this brand of getting people just to move more, find out more about themselves, become more like well-rounded. Not, I suppose well-rounded is probably a bad word, but like multi-purpose, I guess. Looking at other areas and maybe questioning what it is they think they know about themselves and about their life and the way that they see things, and maybe taking those risks, going for more, allowing yourself to be an absolute fuck up as I've been for so many periods of my life, and being okay with that, like, and knowing that once you fuck up, you're just a step closer to where it is that you want to be.
Sure. But yeah. It's been a pleasure, man.
Thanks.
But I'll let you sign off your own podcast.
So as always, guys, I finish this, as I always do, with do better, be better, and live better.